Hey guys, I hope everybody's having a fantastic day, whether you're watching this in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. I'm glad you're here. And before we get started, if you get just a quick second and you're so inclined, please hit the subscribe button below and the bell notification icon out beside it. It'll notify you when I release new videos. It'll let YouTube know you're actually a human who's interested in EDC content, not a bot. And allegedly, it'll help other people see my video content. So today is another overview review of the third Miguron budget knife that I've purchased for the channel from White Mountain Knives, because I was so impressed with the first one, the Miguron. This is the Miguron PELORA. This is, in all truth, the one when I ordered the Pagos, the front flipper, which I'll bring out here in a second, because I have all three of the Miguron overbuilt, I consider, budget knives that have really nice full steel liners. They have G10 scales that sit proud of the liners, making the knife kind of thick. I'll compare this to a knife that it reminds me of here in a second, but it does come with a titanium clip. It comes with really nice G10, just like the other two Migurons, with really nice contouring where the thumb stud is. The overall design's a little more blocky, but this blade I really like and I was drawn to it. It's a very tall Stonewash flat grind, very slicey. We'll try that out in a second. And then it's got a little satin up here around the, I guess you'd call that the plunge. But again, just like the other Migurons, the action's done very, very well. This is a thumb stud only deployment knife. It doesn't have a front flipper, doesn't have a traditional flipper, but it does have really good access because of the way this is milled down. For people who like the reverse flick, I find much less trouble reverse flicking this than I do the Pagos. But the thumb flick is, again, a primary way to actuate this knife, and it works without fail. The reverse flick, I might fail it once every 20 times. You just got to get your finger in there. But I really, really enjoy this knife. First thing we'll do is we'll do a quick cut test. Let me grab a piece of paper here as I turn my back to the mic. A little piece of paper out of PPU Digest. But this grind and blade geometry is done as well as any Miguron I brought into the channel, any of the budget Migurons. So when I bring this out to do some shootouts with some of the other budget Migurons, some of our knife battles, I will be very surprised if any outslice this particular knife. I've not run it through a lot of cardboard. I've cut down about 4 Amazon boxes with it, cut a lot of paper. Did cut a few because I was carrying it the other day of these long vines that were growing up through my mom's porch. Well, I went into the house and used that knife to cut through them. Did very well. It's just very sharp, very slicey, and the geometry leads itself to, when I strop it or put an edge on it, it'll continue to be a very, very slicey knife. So in my hand, I can get a full 4-finger grip on this. I would call this a true medium-sized knife. One of the things that people in the comments point out, and I agree with, but I don't necessarily find it with a negative, because the thickness of this handle really makes me be able to get a much more strong purchase on this knife. Whether I choke up or whether I stay back here in the handle, I like that thickness. Now, of course, what you trade off for that extra girth is the carrying profile, right? It's going to be a little bit more problematic in your pocket. I don't say problematic, but it's going to take up more space in your pocket, and it's going to have a little bit more weight, which we'll get a weight on this in a second. I did get a scale that came in, so we'll see if that works and if I can read it. But just a really enjoyable knife that cost right around $47 on Amazon. This is available now. I'll leave a link down the subscription or in the description when I was just thinking about you guys subscribe to the site. But I'll leave a link in the description. It's not an affiliate link. It's just a link from my Amazon account where I purchased this knife, so you guys can take a look at it. But really something that I've been quite pleased with, and I want to do a little bit more testing and a little bit more comparisons before I give this one its place in the Miguron battle for budget knife of the year. So Just to compare the ones we've looked at so far, it's about the same length as the Miguron and has a very similar blade grind. And it's going to be around the same size as the Pagos, although the Pagos is a little thicker behind the edge. So all three of these knives come in right around the same size range. But we're only talking about the Pelonus or PELORA, whatever it's called. I will be in the description today. So let's see how this knife compares to knives that we might get an idea about from having in our collection or held them. Look at it next to the 4-Max, which is going to be much smaller than the 4-Max. Look at it next to the Civivi Baby Banter. It's going to be a good bit larger than the Baby Banter. So let's take a look at it before we get some measurements next to the Benchmade Bug Out. And it's very close to the Bug Out, maybe just a hair smaller. And we'll look at it next to a Spyderco Paramilitary 2, which is a good 3/4 of an inch, ½ inch shorter than the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. So now, let's get some dimensions on this knife, and then let's attempt to get a weight. And one thing, I'm going to grab something for comparison because it's made me curious early, because this knife reminds me of another knife when I put it in my hand. But the handle is right at 4 1/4. The blade is right at 3 1/8, right under 3 1/4. The cutting edge right at 3 inches. Has a very well done sharpening choil here that also doubles as a place that if you wanted to choke up you could. It's not designed for a finger choil, but this knife does fit and check all the boxes for an EDC box opening urban cutter. Again, the only perceived downside is it's a little heavier knife. And what this knife reminds me of when I first picked it up was my Chavez Street. The size is right around the same size. The thickness is right around the same size. I imagine that the Chavez is going to weigh a little more because it's got the tie side where this has a thick scale, but I'm curious and we're going to see. But when we talk about thicker knives, especially thicker budget knives, I don't always equate that with a negative because a solid knife sometimes fits the bill better. So let's see if I've got this set to the right units. So guys, this knife comes in at 4.95 ounces. And the Chavez comes in at 4.45 ounces. So when we talk about an overbuilt knife at 4.9 ounces roughly, the PELORA is every bit an overbuilt budget knife. So again, I don't equate that for a negative. I look at that as a knife that's going to give me more service, be able to do more hard use tasks. Let's look at the thickness of this blade behind the edge. 0.14. And then the handle thickness where it gets its girth. 0.57. So yeah guys, it is a short, when I say short, what did we decide it was? 4 1/4 plus 3, 7 3/4 inch overall length knife that's over a ½ inch thick with just a really nice blade stock on washers. Fantastic action. Is this a knife that I could recommend to one of my brothers or sisters in the community or a local friend that was looking to get a good knife and not spend a ton of money, keep it under 50 bucks? Absolutely, 100%. I'm a huge fan of what Miguron's done. I have no affiliation with them. In all of my overviews and reviews, every one of these 3 knives uses T8 hardware all the way around, even on the thumb studs, on the Pelonus and on this knife. So if you want to take the thumb studs off for sharpening, which you don't need to, when you put this in a fixed angle system, or on a flat system or a freehand system, you might want to remove them, you might not. They don't get in the cutting path was my point, but they are very easily removable. I like the extra titanium clip, the extra detail they put in the titanium clip, I should say. I really like the content or the construction and the material they use for this G10 on every single one of them. Again, it reminds me of Spyderco G10. I feel like it's very high quality, and every one of these have come sharp. They're all 14C, 28N, and again, $47, $48, guys. But I appreciate you taking a look at this review, this overview of this Miguron PELORA. I think it's a great knife. I'm glad to be able to share it with you guys and bring it into the channel. Again, if you're still here, please hit that subscribe button, the bell notification icon. Most importantly, please look out for the guy or gal to your left. Please look out for the guy or gal to your right. Look out for each other. Go forward with love in your heart. Treat each other with kindness. And always try to choose debate over hate. I love all of you. Peace.